Hey guys, it's Acting Savvy, and I just wanted to do another flexible side gig for actors, and that's substitute teaching. And for a lot of people, they oftentimes don't want to go through the full process, and that's why I feel like it's so easy once you're in to get side work, because this video is intended for people who live in the US. You would first have to go through your state, and then you'll have to apply to different districts. And I tested the waters myself, and at first it was a bit of a hassle. So the first thing you do is you go to whatever state you live in, and you search Illinois Department of Education, and then you apply. It's a $50 fee for a substitute license. That's the application fee. And then you have to call up all the schools you went to and get a transcript. And that also is another step that scares away people because they don't want to take that time to get transcripts sent in. So I did that. I waited a couple weeks, and then once I heard back, I got approved for the Department of Education, Illinois Department of Education substitute license. And I used to think, okay, that's where you stop. That's where you could start, subbing and teaching, right? No, there's a lot more that goes into that. So I'm just going to use Illinois as an example. There's like a bunch of different districts within the state of Illinois, and then even Chicago, it's its own little, own big section, CPS. And then there's a bunch of different number districts, and they all have their different requirements. So it's important once you start submitting to maybe narrow it down to like 2 or 3 to start off with. Even with 2, I was starting to feel it because this is definitely part of course you'll make the money back if you plan on subbing, but each district will make you go through a background check, and then CPS, or usually city schools, will make you go through a drug test. So criminal background, drug testing, and then also you have to get fingerprinted. And what really got to me at times was like, how am I going to afford this if it's coming out of my pocket? Fortunately, a lot of schools will reimburse you for that once you start taking on sub shifts. But at first, when you're first starting to apply, you're not sure if you're going to even get the gig yet. It's very off-putting where you're like, I have to keep paying for all these background tests. Why can't I just transfer it over? But a lot of these districts, they have their own rules. Maybe in your state, you might be able to have one test for your state, but Illinois is a bit more strict when it comes to that. So after that, I went through interviews, and I found both interviews to be very laid back. Like, even with CPS, I was able to, which also is making me very, I don't know how to put it, but just kind of suspicious. Like, I had a friend vouch for me. I didn't even have to do an interview, where I find that to be a little odd that Chicago Public Schools would be doing that, but I ended up choosing to go with, or focusing my energy more on, a suburban school district where I'll be teaching out in the suburbs of Chicago. And I went through that process. For them, it was the usual fingerprint, background report, no drug tests. So the suburbs didn't have a drug test. And then I submitted like this packet too. I feel like that's why once you get in, you're going to be golden, because if you could put up with all these different requirements in order to become a substitute teacher, you'll have all the shifts to yourself. Like, literally is how desperate they are. because people don't want to be doing 30-page applications, but I did. So I submitted that, and then I went in person to deliver that application. And I waited a few days, and then I had my interview, and it was very laid back. And what they want in those interviews, they want to know, how are you with children? Like, I used the fact that I did birthday parties for children to get my foot in the door, because once they know, oh, she works with kids, you're golden. Like, I'm focusing more on elementary school to start off as a substitute teacher, and I find that might be easier for some people to start off, but if you want to do high school, feel free. But they want some sort of experience with children. Like if you did babysitting, if you're a nanny and you nannied high school kids, they totally would love to hear more about that. So my interview went pretty well. They'll give you some questions like, what would you do if you can't get a child to do their assignments? What would you do if a child gave you an issue? Things like that. They want to see how you would handle a problem, because a lot of times when you're a substitute teacher, kids kind of think it's like a vacation day, that they don't have to do anything, even though a teacher will leave a plan for you. They'll oftentimes, if there's an online portal, they'll leave it in the online portal, but they still want the kids to be doing something. So they'll ask you how you'll deal with a child that maybe has something going on at home, and how you would deal with a kid who doesn't want to do their work, they're distracted. And I use the reward concept, like I'll give them a sticker or I'll give them a prize, or I don't know if I could give, like, you probably have to ask if it's okay to give candy or whatever before you go into a classroom and give out candy, but stickers are usually good. If they ask you how you would handle an issue if kids don't listen, or a reward system. So that was something that was definitely good to get done with, because I feel like a lot of people don't do substitute teaching, and it's so wonderful for actors to do, because you have all these shifts. Like the first day, once they hired me, I got at least 20 phone calls of people calling off in that district. So it's all fair game once you get in, but just going through that process. So I would advise, if you want to get into substitute teaching as an actor, it's wonderful, because if you do theater, you could have your teaching during the day, have to have a rehearsal, or if you're doing commercial work and you get booked, you don't have to take a shift that day. So I feel like it's definitely great during the week. You could still do brand ambassador work. Like I have another video about how to get into brand ambassador work in another video. But it's just very good to have something, because there's always dead seasons, especially around the holidays. The kids are in school until a certain point. But it's definitely good, but just focus on 1 or 2 districts to start. And if you find that you're not getting enough work, I'd advise you to maybe expand your range and go into other districts, but just know and maybe have like a little bit of money left for the background report, drug testing, fingerprinting, anything else, because that's what they usually want for you to be around children. And oh, I almost forgot to put in the budget. You might have to get a TB test, also other different vaccinations, but that's all up to the school district to decide what you should be getting. And then for the suburbs, they did want me to get a full physical exam that I paid for out of pocket. So that's also something to consider. But once you get into the classroom, it was pretty easy. It was almost like a study hall for me. I was just managing a study hall where I'm able to focus on other things, and read a script or do something. And if a child has questions, try to answer to the best of your ability, because you might not be able to answer their math questions. But they just mainly want a body in there that's healthy, able to manage the classroom, is mentally stable, and just getting through that application was the hardest part, in my opinion. So as an actor, I feel like being a substitute teacher is definitely a great way to have some sort of income coming in while also pursuing your job as an actor. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below, or you could inbox me. I'm on TikTok as Acting Savvy, and on Instagram I am Acting Savvy 101. And I wish you all the best this holiday season and for the rest of 2023.